Today's topic, Tuscany and San Marino, our new Sojourn program. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of all of that, a couple of quick words. So if you've heard this 100 times, you can put me on mute or whatever. But what Wheel and Anchor is all about is a community of travelers, people that just have a passion for travel, but also sort of have an ideal way that they like to travel. We like to go and explore and inquire and feel like we're sort of part of the local culture without having that sort of hard footprint, and also without being sort of ignorant to local culture and tradition. It's kind of embodied in our Traveler's Creed. If you've joined us recently, you remember when you joined us. It's kind of the philosophy that we go by, and we're actually working on sort of some further iterations of that for those that are interested, based on, how we relate to one another. Because let's face it, when we go on a trip, we want everybody to have a great time and to become friends and to go on another trip together. Whether it's with us or not is irrelevant. But when travelers get together, we just have fun and we learn a lot about the world. And you can see some of the smiling faces there this was a trip that was recently in the Azores, and a wonderful group that was a wonderful time that they had, as I say, and everybody comes away feeling like friends. If we've accomplished that, we've accomplished our mission here at Wheel and Anchor. So just briefly, by way of introduction, my name is Gordon. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor, and I am joined by two of my absolutely wonderful associates today. Barb, one of our trip specialists, and there to answer any questions and hopefully get you signed up on one of our fun trips. Good morning again, Barb.
Good morning.
Good morning. So let's get into the agenda. So we're going to take you through a place, as it says here, with extraordinary scenes and traditional food. Or I could say it's extraordinary food and traditional scenes, depending on your perspective. Either way, Tuscany has it all. It's one of the most popular places to visit in Italy for good reason. And we're going to do it and really take in some very different parts of the province. So the trip begins in Florence, and as I said, this trip actually immediately follows our South Italy sojourn, which is down here in the area of Naples, Sorrento, and so on, and then takes in Puglia here in the boot, and then we're going to zip up to Florence, which is in the north central part of the country, and we'll spend 5 nights in Florence, where we can explore Florence and Cinque Terre and spend most of our time in Florence, because honestly, 5 nights is like the perfect amount of time. We've had our live away programs where we've spent more time there, and we'll probably return to that. But a lot of members have asked us for something that they see a little bit more in a little bit less period of time. That's why we're doing it this way. But still, 5 amazing nights in Florence. We will then travel by private van down to Cortona, one of the most coolest hill towns in Tuscany, in the southeast part of the region. And from here, we'll head back up to Siena, into the Chiana Valley, Montepulciano. And then the last leg, we're going to zip up here. This is cool. You don't see this a lot. We're going to stay in San Marino, which is a little tiny micro country, only 63 square kilometers. So you could literally walk around it. We're going to spend some time exploring. We're not in Tuscany anymore. The area, San Marino, obviously is its own country, and the area around it is Emilia-Romagna. So we're going to explore a little bit of that. And from this cute little enclave of San Marino. So let's get into some of the details. As I say, we're going to arrive in Florence. As I mentioned, if you're joining us from southern Italy, we'll be taking the train from Lecce all the way up to Florence, or you might be coming from somewhere else in Europe, or you might be flying in, and of course you can fly right into Florence by connecting through Frankfurt or Munich, or a bunch of other places in Europe. And once you get to Florence, if you haven't been there before, you'll be like, wow, this is a cool town. It's probably, I don't know, I have so many favorite cities, but it's my favorite city in Italy for sure, and certainly in this part of Europe. So obviously when we get in the first day, we don't tend to plan a lot, but we're staying at a beautiful boutique hotel right in the center of the old town, not far from the Duomo, as well as all the other sites in Florence. So you'll have ample time to sort of walk around and get familiar with it on our own. And then we're going to launch right into the traditional Florentine food and have some amazing dishes like cigale, which is wild boar, and the different pastas they have there, the bistecca, And on our Florentine food tour, we are going to sample a number of different things, sort of the local specialties of Florence. And I can tell you for sure, gelato will be in there as well, because the gelato in Florence, I still think is the best in the world. I know they think it's the best in the world. So it'll be a wonderful day to get to know Florence a little bit. We're then going to head out to Cinque Terre, which of course is on the Tyrrhenian Sea, so on the west coast of Italy. And we are going to head out there in a private van, and we are going to do Cinque Terre by boat, because as I was saying in the last webinar, and as I've said off and on, we learn every time we do a trip. Even though I've been here a number of times and we've done it by train and this by bus, and well, you can't really do it by bus. But honestly, the towns of the Cinque Terre are best seen from the sea. So we're going to start in La Spezia, which is on Cinque Terre sort of sits on a peninsula. So we're going to start there and go all the way around, beautiful cliffs, wonderful scenery. And then we're going to visit 3 of the 5 towns, Cinque Terre, 5 earths or 5 grounds. And we're going to visit 3 of them, including this one, which is Vernazza. And we're going to have a stop at one of them for lunch, and we're going to be in a private boat. Again, by experience, it's the best way to visit Cinque Terre. You're going to have a lovely time. We then have a full day free in Florence, because you need a day in Florence free. In fact, you might even need more than that. You might even want to fly in a day earlier, because there's so much to see and do. You could visit the Boboli and Bardini Gardens, which in this time of the year, typically you already see this, not quite as full as this, but you see the lavender hanging down from, or sorry, not lavender, excuse me, this is wisteria in the Boboli Gardens on these steep hills behind the Pitti Palace. Amazing. You might want to visit the Pitti Palace itself, which of course was the home of the original home of the Medici family, which basically is where Florence came from, or how it arose, and all of the houses of royalty that controlled Tuscany at the time. And you might just want to wander the streets or visit the leather markets, or there's lots to do on a free day in Florence for sure. We will then visit the famous, the incredible Uffizi Gallery. As it says here, one of the top 10 collections in the world. I could see this every time I visited Florence, quite honestly. We're going to be led around in Florence, by the way, by our local guide, Angela. She is amazing. She has done all of our groups up till now. And really, people really enjoy her. She's so knowledgeable. Like, you could ask her about any painting in the Uffizi. But more importantly, she tells it all in the story, because you go into the Uffizi, invariably the place is packed, even though they restrict the number of people that can go in, but it's still packed. But if you have the assistance of somebody that can explain, and if of course you stop at the most famous of the works inside, but it's important to sort of see, the relationship between the various artists and their various works. And I tell you, this is undoubtedly a highlight of a stay in Florence. So we'll then make our way out of town and head down to what I think is one of the prettiest hilltop towns in Tuscany. This is Cortona, which again is in the south eastern part of Tuscany. This is the view actually looking out over the valley from Cortona. We're going to arrive in, we're going to get a little bit of a tour around. It's a small town. It is a hill town. And so everything is kind of up and down. So you got to have those, hiking legs ready. But of course, we will, you can kind of embark on as much or as little as you want. So I know some of our members and did a big tour all the way around all of Cortona when they were there. But you also don't have to venture too far from the Via Nazionale, which is the main pedestrian street that runs through town. So there's many things to do. There's a terrific Franciscan monastery. You can look into the Etruscan history of Cortona, which is its sort of historical claim to fame. Yeah, as I say, you'll really enjoy just spending a day just taking it all in. We'll then backtrack slightly. It's not quite backtracking, but Siena is about an hour away. And Siena is another magnificent city in Tuscany. You've probably heard of it, and if you haven't, again, look it up. The middle of the city, you have the Piazza del Campo, which is sort of like a sunken main square with a campanile, a super high tower. It's just magical. But the highlight, I still think, is the Duomo. And, when we think about going to Europe, we think about, oh, not an ABC tour, right? Going on another bloody church. But this one is well worth seeing. So we're gonna, to gander at the inside of the Siena Cathedral is just one of those things that you have to do. So we'll spend a good chunk of the day there. We'll have lots of time to wander around and explore the streets of this, also another hilltop town, and sort of see what that's all about. Again, you can't have enough culinary experiences in Tuscany. So on this day, we go out to the Val di Chiana, and we experience it with a local family who are going to show us some of the local dishes, in particular, some of the different types of pasta like pici that they make in Tuscany. And again, we did this experience last year, and the feedback was really marvelous. That everybody had a terrific time. Getting a little bit to know, getting out into the countryside and seeing what this famous Tuscan food is all about. We'll also drive over to Montepulciano, and you'll be familiar with the name from wine because it's sort of synonymous with Tuscan wines. And we will visit this town, yet another hilltop town, which is quite cool to sort of wander around. But we're again, the highlight will be once again, and this isn't a food tour per se, but we pride ourselves on having amazing meals along the way. We will dine at a palazzo inside the old town of Montepulciano, sample some of the wines from the region, and we will sleep in the bus on the way back home. It's not even that far. It's like 50 minutes away from Cortona to Montepulciano, and you will really enjoy that time, and you will have enjoyed the stay in Cortona. We then head northeast up to San Marino, and basically this picture is San Marino. That's it. Of course, this was done through one of those bird's eye lenses or whatever they call it, so it sort of distorts the image a little bit, obviously. But San Marino, the 5th smallest country in the world, as I said at the beginning, around 63 square kilometers. You could walk right around it. And interestingly, it's also one of the oldest republics in the world. So I'm not going to go into the whole history lesson here. You got to kind of come with us on the trip to experience what this little republic is all about. As it says, the first day we're going to do a trekking experience, which is like literally going up to the highest point in the middle of the town, in the middle of the country, which is this amazing castle up on the top of Mount Titano. And here you can get a sense of the countryside. And if you look out into the background of the picture, you'll see the sort of rolling, undulating hills of, this isn't Tuscany anymore. We're just to the east of Tuscany. We're in Emilia, the southern part of Emilia Romagna. And so, yeah, we'll have a marvelous time. And, it's a quirky place, like a lot of these micro states are. They've made a big industry out of duty free. So it's a good place to do some duty free shopping before heading back. We're going to do some tours outside of San Marino because it's a small country, so there's only so much you can do inside. And one of them is the little village of San Leo, which is just outside, as I say, again, in Emilia Romagna. And they have this incredible medieval fortress, which is actually named San Leo Castle, and sits up on an outcrop of rock. Again, this is kind of the theme for Tuscany. And this part of Italy is these wonderful hilltop towns. And you kind of, once you've seen one, you kind of can't get enough of them because they are, so cool and so unique unto themselves. We'll do we'll get a chance to try some of the local olive oil. As we know, Italy is sort of synonymous with olive oil, like a lot of places now. But I don't know, I find it hard. It's hard to beat the olive oil from this region, and San Marino has its own distinctive kind of it. So we are also going to go up to the north of San Marino and visit here a little town, another cute little village called Sant'Arcangelo. And Sant'Arcangelo is once again a picturesque little town, but famous for pasta making. And so we'll really get a chance to get hands-on with how you make pasta from hand. It's not even that difficult. There is a bit of an art to it. But I tell you, once you've made your own pasta, if you have the time, I wish I had the time to make my own pasta. then it's really worth doing, because I tell you, the flavor of fresh pasta is just amazing. And some of them are obviously a little bit complicated. You can see a few different types in the picture here. So it'll be a great day. We're obviously going to eat all the pasta, or try to eat all the pasta that we made, and sip on a few glasses of wine. And it'll be a great another culinary addition to our trip. And we then have a free day in San Marino. Here you get a picture of the Liberty Square, Piazza della Libertà. And in San Marino, there's a whole bunch of different things that we can do just around the town. I mean, you may want to just do shopping. I mean, we're coming up to the end of the trip. So it's a good time to do sort of any shopping at the many stores that they have in there. And there's the three towers of San Marino, three fortresses, which again sit at the very top and have an incredible panoramic view. So I think it'd be a nice place to spend some time. And, you know, when you come back home, you can say, where did you spend your holiday? And you would say San Marino, which of course most people won't even be able to point to on a map. And from here, we will head out. We will transfer back, depending on where you are continuing your journey to, and depart either from Rimini or from one of the nearby airports, or back to Florence, as you may desire. So let's get into some of the logistics, which of course are all contained within your program itinerary. And if you didn't catch a copy of that in our last newsletter, then you can please drop us a note to our team, to Barb or Paula, and they will be happy to send you along. Or of course, you can just download it from our web page. So this program, as with most of our programs, we have some wonderful accommodation, boutique hotels in both Florence, Cortona, and a charming place we picked up as well in San Marino. Breakfast and either lunch or dinner every day. Nobody ever starves on our trips, I can tell you, even though we generally go with 2 meals a day. That seems to be enough. But you can always sneak in a few snacks along the way. Truffle chips are my favorite, or gelato. And of course, the services of a host, and all of our taxes and portage fees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the program in a nutshell. Obviously, airfare is one of the exclusions. I forgot to put up this picture here. Airfare and insurance is pretty much the only other things that you need to take care of. And you can get in and out of this part of Italy, Florence, for around these price points. It's, you know, flights to some parts of the world have certainly gotten expensive. Well, it's gotten expensive. Everything's gotten expensive, but at the same time, I think it's fairly consistent with what we've seen before. If you sign up for the program this month, then you will benefit from actually this date is wrong, it's August 15th. Both Southern Italy Sojourn and Tuscany and San Marino Sojourn, the deadline we were able to negotiate with our hotel partners is August the 15th. And if you sign up for this trip before then you can knock $500. That's $1,000 a couple off the tour price. So time for any questions and answers. Barb, let me know if we've got any that have come in. And of course, if you have a question at any time, just drop us a note. Both Paula and Barb are more than happy to answer any questions that you have. So how are we looking?
Can you talk about the weather?
I can always talk about the weather. Yes. It sounds like I must have answered everybody's questions, but maybe some other questions will pop up in the meantime. Yeah, weather in late April in central Italy is what I call perfect travel weather. Easter is early next year, so we're past the crowded time of Easter, which is really good. But we're not into the really busy season of May, when things start to get particularly busy. Listen, Florence is busy all year round. You can't get around it, but you know, a place like Cortona is nicer when you're not in the throngs of sort of late spring and summer travel. So I would expect the weather will be in the high teens, which would be normal for this time of the year. This year, it was a little bit cooler all across Italy and most of Europe in April. So you never know with all the changing weather patterns, but I would count on sort of 15 to 20 degrees to 22 degrees. And if we have a heat wave, well, that of course could happen too. Oops. So, and April, yeah, you can get some rain here and there. Again, this was a little bit of a, this past April in Italy was a little more inclement than traditionally, but we all had a good time anyway.
Okay, excellent. There's another question, just with the stairs and stuff like that, maybe you could talk about sort of what's sort of expected in terms of a fitness level for people wanting to join to make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, this trip is, you need to be, we put guidelines into our information documents about fitness level. Listen, both Cortona and San Marino are on hills. So no matter where you go, almost anywhere you go, you're going to be going upstairs and downstairs. And so, we've positioned hotels and so on such that you're not, it's not like you have to walk 10 flights of stairs to get here and there, but to really enjoy and explore these cities. And this itinerary, and Florence is a big walking city as well. You want to make sure that you're able to walk at least a couple of kilometers at a go. So this is on the active side of our experiential programs.
Okay, excellent. I know there was a question in the last webinar, which was the one for the Southern Italy, which is just before this one, about if there's other trips that connect. So if people are looking to connect while they're in Europe, the Porto and Douro Valley works with this one if they are wanting to combine two.
There you go. That's a great combination to do Tuscany and then the Douro Valley, similar but totally different. I mean, in the sense that you've got the rolling hills of the Douro region. But you have that anyway. That's a good combo. Good idea. Thanks for suggesting that. There's probably a few other combos that you could do, but there might be a few days sort of in between here and there. But yeah, have a look through. The best place to sort of look at that is in our newsletter. Each week we have our trip list, which is a link towards the more or less towards the bottom of the newsletter. And if you click on that, you'll see the whole list chronologically of all of our trips, and so you can sort of see what might overlap. Okie dokie. Any other questions?
Yeah, that's all that's come in. So people, of course, can call or email us if they have any questions that come up, and we're happy to answer it. And like you said, we have the additional information document. So if people are wanting, if they're interested, we can send that info, gives all the nitty gritty about the country and extra information outside of what's already in the program itinerary.
Exactly. So yeah, do drop us a note. Thank you for joining us today on our webinar. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you find interest in joining us next year on this amazing trip. Remember, the early bird booking bonus is good until the 15th of August. And yeah, I look forward to catching up with you on an upcoming webinar. I think that's it for this week, but next week we will be talking about.
There's a couple on Monday. There's two actually. The Cornwall and Devon one is on Monday, as well as Sardinia.
And Sardinia. So next week we have another Italian program to talk about on Monday, which is our sojourn through Sardinia, the island on to the west of the mainland in the Tyrrhenian Sea, and our brand new Cornwall and Devon program, the southwest of England. Oh, amazing countryside. So both of those webinars on Monday.
Wednesday, there's another. France and England is on Wednesday.
And France and England are next Wednesday. So yeah, lots of things coming up. Thank you for joining me again. Have yourselves a great rest of the afternoon or morning in the West, and we'll see you on an upcoming webinar.